Assalamu alaikum. And on to our final interview for the morning. We'll be talking with Professor Muhammed Haron. He is a senior researcher, and we are looking at the second private members bill on the Divorce Act. And this, of course, is being pushed or rather tabled by Al Jama'ah. It is the second private members bill on the Divorce Act. To unpack this issue is Professor Muhammed Haron. Salaam alaikum to you. Welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum salam wa barakatuh.
Okay, so what does this mean? We know it's been submitted by Al Jama'ah on the Divorce Act, and it will soon be before Parliament. How does it bode well for women who are possibly going through a divorce? Does it ease the situation for them in any way? I'm just trying to understand how this ties in with the Muslim marriage bill, the Muslim marriages bill.
That's right. Yeah, please let me just preface the what I intend to say. Just talking about the Muslim marriage bill, which you just made mention of. Firstly, I think the idea of this whole process complements what has happened previously. The Women's Legal Center Trust, for example, had challenged the government in terms of making changes, and they succeeded, as we all know by now, in convincing the court that the Muslim marriage has never been recognized for generations now, and it is by time that dignity is returned to the Muslim women, specifically in this particular instance. Secondly, is the since the it was taken to court, the Supreme Court, the court realized, as it sort of waded through the sort of the documents, that the Marriage Act of 1961 as well as Divorce Act, these were basically, in terms of when trying to recognize Muslim marriages, were totally were inconsistent with the Constitution itself. So in this way, I think the Al Jamaa sort of basically realized the need to not necessarily only put forward the Muslim marriage bill, but also to make amendments to several others. Two of them basically have been the Maintenance Act, and then the second one of the two was the Divorce Act. Now, in the Divorce Act itself, no reference or mention has been made of the sort of the disadvantages that Muslim women encounter when in divorce scenarios, and so the amendments that were brought about or that have been recommended or suggested basically tries to rectify all of these. In other words, it basically wants to give the women also the right to basically pursue the divorce case like the man. So in other words, the issue of equality, fairness, and justice all come into play, and this is partly sort of the whole purpose for this process being pursued.
Alhamdulillah for that. It is commendable. But however, as you are probably aware as well, that under Sharia law, we as Muslim women do have the right to to initiate a divorce if we are living in very untenable conditions with our
Indeed.
partners. We do, alhamdulillah, we are afforded that right. So I'm kind of wondering why we're going this route. Is it not possibly a duplication? Should we not stick with Sharia law, or do you believe that going this route with the Muslim marriages bill is going to give the Muslim woman greater protection, perhaps?
Well, I think firstly, I think as Muslims, as we all know, we do conform to the Muslim marriage system, to the Muslim marital rights, which is in conformity with Sharia, which falls under the boundaries of Sharia as such. However, this sort of pathway, partly because Muslim marriages have never been recognized.
Ah,
I mean, as women, I think our mothers and sisters and grandmothers, all of them have suffered as a result of this. They have so many women who were divorced, but they never even got a part of the assets that's supposed to have gone to them, for example, or those who have passed away, they were never given the necessary coverage that's supposed to have been. So whilst within Sharia we are covered, yes, but according to the secular constitutional law system that we are in, this has not been done. So in other words, what this effort is trying to just to try to work its way into the system, first of all, to force the system to recognize that there is Sharia that Muslims basically follow, but two, that they sort of legal structures such as the divorce issues should also be given that status. In other words, the moment somebody divorced according to Muslim rights, then the court must automatically, or rather the sort of legal system must automatically recognize that as a valid sort of request for divorce on behalf of the wife, on behalf of the husband, whatever the case may be. And so in that sense, it tries to cover, tries to protect the rights of the Muslim woman, not, of course, in Sharia, but more within the secular system that has not recognized Muslim marriages.
Okay, Alhamdulillah, I think what I've picked up from what you were saying is, and shukr, that according to Sharia, we as women are more than adequately covered, whether our husband passes away or whether we are divorced. The sad thing about that is, it is us that are at fault. It's not the
Mm,
law per se. It is not the Sharia ruling. It is us that don't carry out and
mm,
fulfill the
mm,
rightful duties of the widow or
yeah.
the divorced woman.
Mm,
Thus may, I should imagine,
mm,
making it necessary for us to get additional support via secular
mm.
law. Do I understand it correctly then?
Yeah, no, indeed, you are 100% correct, because, uh, in fact, you and I know, even in reality, when people get divorced, then the spouse or individual, they take recourse to where? Not to Sharia, they go to the secular law.
Absolutely.
And there have been,
Absolutely.
and in other words, they are conveniently abusing the rights that are within Sharia. And
Absolutely.
unfortunately and sadly to state this, but I think somehow, I think our communities are not fully educated about the rights that exist within Sharia. They know that it is there, but they do not seem to realize the to what extent it really goes to really protect not just the woman but the child who's normally affected. But also on top of that, I think we've also noticed there have been umpteen cases of women, more specific. Of course, there are some men too have suffered, but mainly the women who, when it comes to divorce, they are sidelined, they are marginalized, despite the fact that Sharia basically informs us or tells us, commands us to do the right thing, and yet we go against the very Sharia. So sometimes I question our fellow brothers, basically, to do this. We're going to die tomorrow and we'll have to be answerable to Allah too. So why not sort out things here and use the legal system to such a point that it can reinforce some of the rights that we need to give to our women?
And I digress here, Professor. I digress here. Please allow me.
Mm.
The same thing can be said for the Islamic worlds. I
Uh-huh.
mean, we're having a similar situation, are we not? People seem to
Mm.
be moving away from Islamic worlds. They'd rather go the secular route, simply because I've heard of cases where the woman will put her foot down and say, why do you have your siblings in the will, whereas I was
Mm.
the one that helped you build the business? So your
Mm. Mm.
siblings are
Mm.
very
Mm.
far removed from
Mm.
should be far removed from the
Mm.
inheritance. I think
Mm.
that is a discussion for another time.
Agree.
But
Mm.
just a point that
Mm.
I've want to make here.
No, in fact, you're correct. And I mean, I should quickly add that, when the Muslim marriage bill was sort of formulated, based upon previous experience, of course, and sort of minimized or minimalistic, it was pointed out to Al Jama'ah that there are 20 other acts that have to also be sort of reworked, not reworked totally, but in terms of affecting all of the other, and the world issue, the issue of estate, all of these are part of that. And so, in a sense, Ajama is just touching on the first two that it felt very, very critical at this juncture. Hopefully, it will then be starting to look at the others as well. And this issue of the world, I mean, you're touching on a very sensitive, very concerned issue that, again, I agree with the point you made, that we are responsible as Muslim community, as families, as individuals. We are the ones that should be addressing these and rectify these down in our lifetime. We should not wait, for others to do that for us. But just to one thing that I just want to add, I think the our democratic system is also partly to blame for the situation that we as Muslims are in, that it spoke about religious freedom and the freedom of expression and so forth, but it never, since 1994 to 96, when the final constitution was adopted, did it fully and acceptably address our concerns as a Muslim community. And one, despite all the efforts by the ulama groupings, by the civil society groupings, I mean, many have made great efforts, and sadly, all of this have just been shot down by 2011. And this is part of the sad story of this whole process.
Professor Harun Muhammad, I do know, Alhamdulillah, you are the son of the late Imam Harun. You and I were meant to have had a talk a little while ago on the anniversary of your father's death, and that didn't happen. But I'm so pleased that we managed to get the opportunity to talk now. What I'm going to suggest is ask for Brother Inayat Wadi, my colleague here, to try and host you on a Wednesday evening, because these matters need true in-depth discussion, and News and
Right.
Views only allows us about 5 or 10 minutes because it's a very
Understandable.
fast-paced interview. So
Yeah.
just in closing, I'll hand over to you. Please summarize what we've talked about, very especially the divorce, obviously the issue on the Divorce Act.
Well, the whole process that Al Jama'ah is pursuing is basically just to rectify some of the issues that have been overlooked. Uh, and I think the Divorce Act, the amended part, is just to basically see to it that it, it sort of returns the sort of rights of our Muslim women as
Inshallah.
best as it can.
One
Yeah.
wonderful talking to you. Till the next time, as always, keep
Yeah.
us in your du'as.
Shukran.
Assalamu alaikum to
Ameen. Sure.
you.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Shukran for the opportunity.
5 after 10, exactly time for me to wrap up. A very, very big thank you to the production team. I sincerely hope you've enjoyed being with me over the past 2 hours on the show. Do remember, you and I can get together again next week, Monday at the same time. And inshallah, we're going to listen to the beautiful recitation of Juz 22 by Sheikh Tawfiq Ibn Az Sa'iq. From me, Julie Ali, Assalamu alaikum and Khuda Hafiz.